Get back to work. That's President Donald Trump's message to Americans on Juneteenth. Get back to work. There's just too many holidays. He posted this on his Truth Social. Too many non-working holidays in America. It is costing our country billions of dollars to keep all of these businesses closed. The workers don't want it either. Soon we'll end up having a holiday for every once working day of the year. It must change if we are going to make America great again. And again, this was posted on Juneteenth, a rather new federal holiday that Joe Biden passed into law, I guess, or created during the George Floyd riots to appease the Black Lives Matter protesters. Black Lives Matter, an organization we now know, which basically was grifting millions and millions of dollars off of the tragedy into their own pockets and into the president's real estate investments. President Donald Trump saying, look, we want to make America great again and we need people to work. And every time we take a federal holiday, it costs us billions of dollars. We have lost revenue and workers don't like it either, especially those hourly workers who work for tips, who work overtime. And pretty soon, thanks to the big, beautiful bill, will not be taxed on their tips, will not be taxed on their overtime. Donald Trump not saying we're going to get rid of some federal holidays, but definitely it seems like something that is a little bit under his skin. I'm going to be honest with you too. I'm not a big holiday person. I don't like when people are forced not to work for some federal holiday that nobody really understands or doesn't really celebrate anything that truly represents part of the American history. And I think that we honor America better by going out and making a living, by using our time and talents to be productive. I'm wholeheartedly for fewer federal holidays myself. And I'm not sure what Donald Trump's next action will be, but I'm looking forward to it. Now, at the White House yesterday, they were working hard. They even had a press briefing, and Karoline Leavitt said, I know that it's a federal holiday, but we are working 24/7 here at the White House. And that is true. Donald Trump is working 24/7, not just on the big, beautiful bill, but on the situation with Iran. And Karoline Leavitt had a direct message from President Donald Trump to the people of Iran and the United States of America and the world about when he decides, or when he will decide, to make any and all decisions regarding American activity in the Middle East.
Regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
Yeah, I will make my decision to go in the next 2 weeks. What does 2 weeks mean? Well, that's the very next question that Karoline Leavitt got from a reporter. What exactly does that mean? I thought it was self-explanatory, but these media people, they either don't understand what President Trump means or they're just always seeking some kind of clarification.
When the president said a few weeks away, did he mean obtaining enough enriched uranium to start building a weapon, or did he mean Iran is a few weeks away from completing the production of a weapon?
I'm glad you asked that, Weija. It's an important question, and it's one, frankly, the media has been getting wrong. Let's be very clear. Iran has all that it needs to achieve a nuclear weapon. All they need is a decision from the supreme leader to do that, and it would take a couple of weeks to complete the production of that weapon, which would, of course, pose an existential threat, not just to Israel, but to the United States and to the entire world. And that is something that the entire world, including countries like Russia, is in agreement with, that Iran should not and cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. And that's why the president believes that, and he's believed that, again, not just his political career, but frankly, his entire life.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you there regarding Russia and regarding you and regarding Iran and regarding the nuclear capability. Nobody in the world wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and that includes Russia. And the reason is because the more countries that have a nuclear weapon, the less cool it is for the countries that do. The more countries who have a nuclear weapon, the less powerful the countries who have the nuclear weapon are. And Russia likes to have a stranglehold or a stronghold over Iran and over other countries that are somewhat allied with it. And if everybody had a nuclear weapon, well, then Russia just wouldn't be as powerful as it is. And that's something that they want to make sure. And that's why they're sitting by the wayside. Same with China. There is not one single country coming to Iran's aid. As Israel continues to pummel the country and pummel its nuclear capabilities and try to destroy them and knock them back to the Stone Age, as Israel continues to make sure that the enriched uranium is no longer being enriched, that is something that the rest of the world is taking notice of. That nobody is coming in and saying, all right, Iran, we got your back. All right, Iran, we'll help you. Nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Donald Trump knows it. Israel knows it. I think Iran knows it too. And at the White House, everyone's saying, look, Donald Trump knows what he's doing. Remember, he's not a first termer. This is his second term. He's dealt with this kind of stuff before. He'll deal with it again, and he's dealing with it right now, and he's doing it in a way that he always promised he would. Peace through strength. We must trust President Donald Trump. So saith Jason Miller, who's been a longtime Trump advisor since his very first campaign.
This is a reason why President Trump received 77.3 million votes and 312 electoral votes and won such an overwhelming show of support in the election this last fall. We have to trust in our commander-in-chief. And we saw in his first 4 years in office, President Trump kept us out of all new wars. There's an important point here that sometimes with the peace through strength, sometimes you have to show a little strength to avoid having to get into a war. Because in a certain case, we don't take care of it now, it could be something later. But if there's one person who can stop us from being embroiled in a war, it's President Trump.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where somebody's acting up or some guy's like, had a couple too many to drink and he thinks he's bigger and tougher than he is. And you got to like lunge at him like you're going to hit him. And then he jumps back and you laugh and you walk off. That's exactly what Donald Trump's doing here with Iran. It's peace through strength. And Caroline Leavitt, press secretary for the White House, reiterated that same exact sentiment in the White House press briefing room yesterday because, well, they were working even though it was a quote unquote federal holiday.
Trust in President Trump. President Trump has incredible instincts, and President Trump kept America and the world safe in his first term as president in implementing a peace through strength foreign policy agenda. And with respect to Iran, nobody should be surprised by the president's position that Iran absolutely cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. He's been unequivocally clear about this for decades, not just as president, not just as a presidential candidate, but also as a private citizen. In fact, I have some quotes for you. In 2011, President Trump said, America's primary goal with Iran must be to destroy its nuclear ambitions. We cannot allow this radical regime to acquire a nuclear weapon that they will either use or hand off to terrorists. In 2015, the president said the problem is that Iran poses an existential threat to Israel, our Middle Eastern allies, and the United States. And of course, the president has repeated that in his first term as president and his second term as president as well. That's why he was adamantly opposed to the disastrous Iranian nuclear agreement that was implemented by President Obama. And it's why he has given great latitude and given a lot of effort to achieving a diplomatic solution. But he's been very clear. Iran went for 60 days when he gave them that 60-day warning without coming to the table. On day 61, Israel took action against Iran. And as I just told you from the president directly, he will make a decision within 2 weeks.
Yeah. So there you have Iran. It cannot have a nuclear weapon. Donald Trump is ready and willing and able to get into a diplomatic solution and make a deal. But there is nothing that is going to stop the continued adamant foreign policy of President Donald Trump, which is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He's almost said it as much as he said, make America great again. One reporter asked, what exactly does a deal with Iran look like?
Iran need to entail?
No enrichment of a uranium, and it would absolutely not. Iran is absolutely not able to achieve a nuclear weapon. The president has been very clear about that. And by the way, the deal that Special Envoy Witkoff proposed to the Iranians was both realistic and acceptable within its terms, and that's why the president is sent that deal to them.
And that is something that we look forward to. Now, speaking of deals, there's, of course, another deal, and that is the big, beautiful bill, which is the other topic of conversation. And President Donald Trump and all of his advisors and everyone else in the administration is trying to push that bill over the finish line. They're trying to push that bill right to July 4th. And what President Donald Trump is doing is getting everybody out there to say, look, this is going to not only supercharge the economy, but has already really even affected the economy before it's even been passed. The chairman of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, was on one of the Fox shows, and he was talking about how just the mere mention, just the idea of President Donald Trump's one big, beautiful bill is causing economic upturns in many different corners of the economy.
The fact is that the Big Beautiful Bill is already having a big, beautiful effect because everybody's onshoring jobs, building factories, making commitments to send trillions of dollars of new investments into the U.S. And they're doing that before the bill is even passed. But we expect that the bill will pass the Senate next week and that it'll be signed by the 4th of July. And when that happens, not only will that momentum continue, but people are going to see a big, big tax cut. So if you get paid time and a half on overtime, then you're going to be taxed on the time, but not the half. If you get tips, then you're not going to be taxed on those tips. If you're a Social Security person who's getting taxed on some income because you're maybe taking an extra job, you're not going to be taxed on that. And so all of this is going to add even more juice into the economy. And so you think right now we're looking at GDP growth for the second quarter about 4%, real wage growth that's unprecedented in 60 years, and that's even before the bill is passed. And finally, you led with all this scaremongering about tariffs. Think about it. While this is going on, inflation right now is lower than it's been in 4 years, and that's by every single measure. And so these people who say that tariffs are going to cause inflation and harm the economy, they got both things wrong.
And that is something that is going to continue once the Big Beautiful Bill is passed, which a lot of people believe is just a matter of when, not if.
Senate Republicans are continuing to push this critical legislation forward. The One Big Beautiful Bill will drive growth and supercharge the American economy. The Council of Economic Advisors found that the One Big Beautiful Bill will raise take-home pay by nearly $14,000 for a year for the average family of four. The CEA also found that the One Big Beautiful Bill will increase wages as much as $11,000 for the average worker in America. The One Big Beautiful Bill expands the child tax credit and makes it permanent for more than 40 million families with children. And the bill will deliver no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and substantial tax cuts for our incredible seniors. Simply put, the One Big Beautiful Bill is a massive win for middle-class Americans. When nearly 80 million Americans sent President Trump back to this White House, they were doing so expecting these popular policies to be enacted. Republicans in Congress have a mandate to deliver. And President Trump demands they send this historic bill to his desk for signature by Independence Day, July 4th.
And that is something that is going to, I would say, most likely happen, especially since President Donald Trump announced that he doesn't want anyone taking off work. No more taking off of work. We got stuff to do. For example, we've got to get this One Big Beautiful Bill passed. We got to get it jammed through, and we've got only like a week and a half to do it. We will, of course, we'll be following along with all of this kind of stuff, and we're going to be keeping you updated on what happens. The other thing about the One Big Beautiful Bill is that it encompasses a portion of the budget, or it encompasses money and funding for every single part of the government. We've talked about how Health and Human Services has come forward to say, hey, here's where the money's going. Here's how we're upgrading. We've seen Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. make those kinds of statements. We saw Kelly Loeffler talk about small businesses. And of course, we know about the border protections that Tom Homan and Kristi Noem have mentioned repeatedly in the One Big Beautiful Bill. But there's also transportation needs and upgrades to our FAA systems and our air traffic control systems and our telecom systems. And Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, was out saying, look, there's billions of dollars for upgrades to the transportation system in this One Big Beautiful Bill, which is another reason why it got to pass.
In the Big Beautiful Bill, there's $12.5 billion that's going to be deployed for an upgrade of telecom. What does that mean? It means we're going to move from copper wires to fiber, which, by the way, the FAA is one of the last organizations in the world that still uses copper. We're going to get new radios, and we're going to get new voice switches as part of that money. We're using 1970s radar. In that money, we get new radar as well. And we're going to have money to upgrade some of the towers, not all of them, and have a new en route facility that's going to be funded. So the Big Beautiful Bill is the one pathway we have right now that's going to start the funding, start the process, start the building, start the fixing of this old antiquated system.
The One Big Beautiful Bill will fix the economy. It will fix transportation. It will fix healthcare. It will fix all of these things. And it is on track to be passed by July 4th, barring any unforeseen circumstances or what Donald Trump likes to call grandstanders. Like I said, there's a lot more to talk about with this one big beautiful bill, with the move forward, with what's going on in the Senate, as well as some other non-President Donald Trump White House related 47 Daily stories. Here on the 47 Daily, we cover all the news directly from the Trump administration, from the White House to my mouth to your ears for the next 4 years. But there's other news of the day, and that is something that we cover every single afternoon at 1 p.m. with Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, our live streaming podcast, which you can also download on iTunes or Google Play or on Spotify or wherever you like to get your podcasts. All you have to do is go to your favorite podcast player, search Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, download, listen, and enjoy.